8 here on the Radio Wammo Breakfast. Time to talk politics with the co-leader of the Green Party, Russel Norman, joining us this morning. Morning, Russell.
Morning, Wammo.
And the government opened up their books, and we've seen that the picture ain't pretty. A big old deficit, and the tax take was down. What did you make of what we discovered yesterday?
Well, what it shows is that the economy isn't doing anything like what the government and Treasury projected. And so the GST take is down significantly, but also the company tax take is down quite significantly. So that's had a pretty big impact on the books. And
would you relate this directly to the tax cuts that came into effect a couple of years ago?
Well, what it means is that, remember when they brought in those big tax cuts for upper income earners, and they said, look, it'll be workout neutral because we're going to increase GST. So workers on the average wage can put the hat around and pay more for GST so that upper income earners can get huge tax cuts. But they said it's all right, it'll work out fiscally neutral, even though, of course, it's grossly unfair. In fact, because it was never going to be fiscally neutral, and they lost $1 billion in the first 9 months. And with these figures, it looks like they've lost a lot more because the GST take is so far below what they projected it to be.
And so meanwhile, Bill English is promising a black budget, as it were, making sure that the government's not going to be spending too much anywhere. And they say, well, because the books are in bad shape, so this is what we've got to do.
Yeah, that's right. So they drive the books into the red, make a complete pig's breakfast of managing the budget, and then they go, we've got a terrible deficit, so we're going to have to do some horrible, nasty things. So firstly, they're borrowing hand over fist. That's to pay for tax cuts for upper income earners. When you think that future generations are going to be paying debt because upper income earners got big tax cuts, that's obscene. Secondly, they say, because of the debt, we've got to sell the assets. So once again, assets that belong to our grandkids, we're just guardians of them, and were built by our grandparents. Those assets also get sold because they've driven the budget into the deficit. And then the third thing is going to be widespread austerity. So there's going to be cuts in numerous places across the budget, all because they made a pig's breakfast of managing the budget and drove it into a big hole.
Of course, this is all in the background of what's happening in Europe as well. In fact, share markets and currencies have fallen around the world overnight as questions are emerging about Europe's ability to fend off a deeper crisis there. What can New Zealand do?
Well, we need to, basically keep our eyes on our own accounts. So obviously, the decision to give away huge tax cuts has turned out to be grossly irresponsible because it makes us vulnerable because we have to borrow lots of money to pay for it. And it also means that we need to look at how we're going to fund the earthquake rebuild. So the government wants to fund it from debt. The Greens have long promoted that there should be a temporary targeted levy to pay for the rebuild, and that would also make a significant difference to the government's bottom line. So protect us. But the other side of it is just making sure that the economy isn't, driven into a hole. They told us that, they've got this brilliant plan for the economy, but it's not going terribly well at the moment.
It'll be interesting to see what happens a little bit later on this morning when the Reserve Bank publishes the Financial Stability Report, which looks at the soundness and efficiency of New Zealand's financial system. So that'll give us another indicator of what's going on, I suppose.
Yeah, though the Financial Stability Report is more, it's prudential. It's about whether they, how sound are they, and it's not likely to say that much, to be honest, about the state of the economy at the moment.
Okay. Another issue this week, of course, is this free contraception for beneficiaries. Good idea or bad idea?
Well, I think it's a bad idea to target it to just beneficiaries. If this is, if we're targeting it solely those at the bottom, and it'll be managed by WINS. So your caseworker goes, look, by the way, you know how you want that special grant to pay the rent? Well, there's also this other thing that I'd quite like you to do, which is to go and get some long-term contraceptive inserted under your skin. It does really start to be pretty coercive by the state.
But do you think they should just open up free contraception to the rest of the population as well?
Well, I think, making contraceptive freely and widely available, I think is a very sensible thing to do. Means that the cost isn't an issue when people are considering whether to use contraceptive or not. But rather than making it very, intrusive on the very poorest, I think it just should be that, okay, if we think offering contraceptive is an important thing to do, then let's do that. It should be a public policy decision across the country.
Okay, Russell, thanks very much for your time this morning. Cheers.
Okay, cheers.
Co-leader of the Greens, Russell Norman. Here's Subtract, featuring Little Dragon.